illustrate a little bit from a personal perspective my relationship with women in my life. Every child in this world, from Moshe Rabbeinu to Rebbe, except for Adam Arishay, had and always had a mother. Without the caring of a mother, without the nurturing of a mother, without the love of a mother, there's no life, period.
Power off.
We'll continue this way. Do you hear me in the back now? Okay, they'll be upward because I'm going to be screaming. But I worked yesterday in the shul and thank God I still have a voice. I have a good friend in Kronayitz with the name David Pinson. Rabbi David Pinson. And he once introduced me to a beautiful Rambam, Maimonides. And we were discussing in depth this very deep revelation that Maimonides have created. And then I asked him, Dovi, in your opinion, there were so many great sages in the history. Why the Rambam, out of all people, is the Rambam? And without thinking twice, he told me he must probably had a very good mother who believed in him. It wasn't a cliche because Dovi's mother, Rachel, who passed away young, way before her time, was very proud of her little Dovi. And she always revered him in high regards and was flattered to explain to everybody how great is her son and all of her kids. And that's why they have a lot of confidence because of the confidence that the mother had in her. Let me emphasize, I'm not here, God forbid, to lecture you or to tell you about your, say, accountability or responsibility in your life. On the contrary, I want to explain how by your very being, by your very existing, you've already granted life to people. I just want to emphasize and give you feedback for that you have. I want to validate you very womanhood, what does it mean for mankind? We're not here to discuss the trouble of parenting. It's not the name of the session. When I say the role and the importance role and the vital role and the critical role for the Jewish children's education, it's by your very being. God forbid when someone loses a loved one and they wish to see him back for 1 second. So what is it that you're missing your mother for? For the chicken soup? You can buy it in an eatery. What do you need? A bedtime story? There is taste. A walk in the park? Thank you. One needs a mother for one and only reason, just to have her. When we're missing our loved one, where are we missing? My grandmother, Allah Shalom, was a vegetable for 10 years in hospice. She would react when I spoke to her, but the family is dead, unfortunately, for many years. But boy, did they cry when she passed away. And why? What did they have? A mother in the hospital where they come to attend and just move her from the bed to the outside for her and back and forth? Her present, her gift, we're going to mommy. Although they're taking care of her, but her very existence, the very life, was for them a source of inspiration in life. And just till a year ago. And they can't get her over it. It's a little kid lost their mother in the middle of the train station of the war. The older people, 70 and more, and they missed their mother so badly. What did she give in the last 10 years? She was a burden. I'm sorry for saying it that way. But she existed. So when we get up in the morning and we say to Hashem, I often talk to people, and sometimes it's myself, just it's maybe not appropriate to say it out loud. But one, during depression, can ask himself sometime, what to thank for? I'd rather not get up in the morning. Why did I get up? Couldn't Hashem just make me sleep forever, God forbid? I tell you the answer that I found that is comforting to me. Maybe for myself, life is not exciting enough to want to get up in the morning. But for someone else, it's everything. When I see my kids' eyes when I'm leaving the house and going to Australia and they're tearing and I was choking from tears, I couldn't talk. I wanted to tell them you're the most important things in my life. I was afraid to open my mouth. I would have break crying. Because I realized how precious they were for me. A week before that, I was busy with school and running and coming. They don't need me to take them to the park, to buy them presents, and to tell them bedtime story. They just need me, period. They need my existence. So my existence is a blessing on other people's life. So when I get up in the morning and say, thank you, Hashem, for granting me the privilege to be a beacon of life, source of hope to other people. I'm there for them, everything. And how would we know? We should never know. But just want you to imagine he's passing and how much people will cry and will miss him and why. What have he done already? He existed. So that existence which we don't really own, we never created it. Hashem gave it to us. That we don't own is the most precious thing. That we never acquire is the priceless thing that we have. It's our children, it's our health, it's our existence. This is the greatest gift that Hashem has gave us, and this is the gift that we are obligated to give to the world. So without any guilt or fear or pressure, I just want to let you all know that the very fact that we all got up this morning and we are alive and existing, it is a blessing to many, many people. To your parents, to your children, to your siblings, to your neighbors, to myself right now over here. Thank you, Hashem, for making me get up this morning, and all of you over here. That's the very basic. And that's what a mother is for a little child. A soldier in the battlefield, what is it, a Marine or a Green Beret? An Australian parachute or an Israeli tzanchanim. When they get injured at war and they succumb to the bullets of the enemy, the last words of their lips is, Mommy, Mother. They cry for their mom. They're very tough, they're very strong. All they need is their mother on their side. When I'm sick, on the great fever or COVID, I'm vaccinated now. I would find myself mumbling to myself in the middle of the night, Mame, Mame. That's all you need next to yourself. My Yiddish Mame. That's who we are. And even those who never grew up without a mother, they did not have that privilege. Someone had to fulfill that role in their life. Otherwise, they won't be here. They will be locked up somewhere. If you're here right now functioning on 2 feet and sitting in this place, it's because you have a mother in your life. A real one, or a step one, or a conceptual one. Someone mothered you. Rabbi Lau, father in Eretz Yisrael, may God bless him and grant him long life, writes in his memoir a phenomenal concept. He had an older brother by the name Tulik. He was Lulik and the older brother was Tulik. They both survived the Holocaust in a miraculous story when his mother, in the last instinct, threw him off the caravan where she was taken to her death and asked Tulik, take care of Lulik. And he was begging and crying, and he was so upset that his mother threw him away and gave him to his brother, not understanding that that separation granted him his life. So he explained that his father was a great rabbi, but a son of a great rabbi. 33 generations of Jewish rabbis. I don't think any one of us can really trace back 33 generations and say that 33 fathers, son were actually rabbis and leaders of their community, but Rabbi Lau could, and he did it. And he explained what happened. Why is that then I'm a rabbi, and my brother Tulik rather did not stay religious. And he was actually a great delegate of the Israeli Ministry of Defense and other stuff. He did great services to the state of Eretz Israel. So he explained a very interesting anomaly that I use in my engaging with young people. That's what he believed, and that was his experience in the war. That the formation of the very sense of self that a person creates in his life is not necessarily in a very young age like we like to think children, although we know according to Torah that the very, I would say, subconscious is being built as a young child, perhaps even in the pregnancy of the mother. But I'm talking about the building, the character that you are, the engagement that you have, this persona that you have is between the age of 13 and 18. This is the most critical age in the development of a person. So Rabbi Lau's chiddush, so to speak, revelation was that as a child during the Holocaust, he had it better off than his older brother Tulik, because Tulik was a teenager. So the harsh of the concentration camp, he went through in the time when he needed nourishment the most. While Rabbi Lau, young kid, was 8 years old, till 13 or 12, surviving the Holocaust. Coming to Eretz Yisrael, to Kiryat Mochkin, it's a little town near Haifa, where he was adopted by his uncle, great Rabbi Frankel. No, Rabbi Frankel was his father-in-law. His uncle, I forgot the name. But he was adopted by his uncle, who treated him just like a father, who trained him for his bar mitzvah, and he owed his life to his uncle. So he said, perhaps I lost my parent, but I got another set of parents in the time that I needed. But my brother Tulik, it was too late. He needed his parents between 13 and 18, and he did not have them. It's a very interesting knowledge. Interestingly enough, I know this. In the untold story of us, Chabad community, the Gimel Tammuz 28 years ago was a trauma at any level, in any measure, and in any circumstances, and very much unspoken. And the people that I knew and I grew with, the older people survived well. The young one as well. Those who were between 13 and 18, they got the blunt of the force of the trauma. And it affected them accordingly. I don't want to scare you, just put COVID into attention. Don't get scared if you have a child between 13 and 18, but COVID didn't do good to anyone. But we're going to come out of it stronger than before. Back to our mother. I'm going to tell you two Baba Mises, stories that happened with my both Bubbies. My Bubby Chana, Allah Shalom, last name Gurevich, here you call it Guru. She was parents from home. The reason why she survived the war is the same reason why my other Bubby survived the war. They both lived in what's called today White Russia, Belarus, which was conquered by the Nazis, which just annihilated all the Jews there, just like they did in Ukraine and any other countries like that. However, lucky then, quote unquote, the Soviet harsh education and demand that kids must go to the public school of the Soviet doctrine has forced them to flee the little town. Ironically, if you lived in a small town, you're more exposed to the authorities. They have more of a count. You know, when you go to a vacation place and with a small group, everybody notices if you came to the dining room, or you go down here, how does it feel? But in a big community, you can blend, you can not come to shul and no one will notice, and sometimes it's actually really easy. So the parents of both of these girls, who happen to be my both grandmothers, about the same age, young teenagers, send them away to the big cities, Leningrad, Moscow, to siblings, that they should be able to kind of escape school, make some homeschooling, a little bit of school, and not be under the real, I would say, force and blunt force of the Soviets. So unfortunately, when the war started, both of their families were destroyed and killed. Mother, father, siblings, everyone, and they survived, each one of them growing with siblings or mechutonim or whatever. But now I'm going to talk about my Babi Chana. They lived in the town of Klimovich, a small town not far from the border of today Russia and Ukraine. Her father was a big chassid by the name of Shmuel. The mother was Esther Hadassah. She had an older sister by the name Risha, married Azimov. And she moved along with her sister Risha to be able to escape the Russian forced education. She never recovered from the Holocaust. She was extremely angry that they killed her parents. So much so, in the 1950s, when she lived with my grandfather in the town of Yale, which is a suburb of Paris, and they gave birth to Beli, I know her 12 children, 6 boys and 6 girls. The second to the oldest is my mother. They lived in great poverty. They never owned a house, and she refused to ever receive a penny from the German government. At that time, all Chabad families who were victims of the war in any shape or form got a beautiful grant every month, which allowed them just to finish the month and to put bread on the table. And my grandfather, which also lost his father to the Nazis, but he just said, well, why can't I just take their money too? They killed my father anyway. And he told my grandma that he's going to the office to sign up for this shilumim, for this kind of compensation that he's going to get from the Nazis. So my grandmother was a smart Eden, a very witty, sharp, kind-hearted, sweetheart woman, told him, you can go, but don't come back. She was very proud, and she never received a penny. I have a lot of stories about it, but I want to skip the story that I love. My grandfather was extremely frum as it gets. Since the time that the Rebbe says the rule to learn the Rambam every day, he never stopped learning Rambam. I don't think he missed a day, and nothing else. He once told me very humbly, he saw his Gemaras were very used. He said, Zayden, how did he ever finish us? Well, I think 3 times. And he said, very humbly, he just learned every day. He was very, he did his role and everything he has to do. By the way, is Tepa's turning? Because it's our grandfather.
My great uncle.
Cousins!
My uncle. My great uncle.
Come on, bring it in. It feels so popular. He had a lot of girls from Morocco and from Algeria and Tunisia and descendants who came to his school, and they called him until today our father Ebero, because he showed them so much love and care. So don't feel bad if you're not relatives. We love everyone. We really do. And he didn't really practice it, and I took from him a lot. And I bring it into my education that it's not enough to educate a student, but you got to care for him, for his livelihood, for his well-being, for his parnasa, for his shidduchim. Baruch Hashem, I actually was influential in shidduchim for some of my students. Some of them even marry off my relatives, and I'm very proud of it. It's the biggest nachas when you can marry off a student. Back to Babi Chana, explaining the Zayde Berel's frumkeit. Once Bachim finding him, you do a lot of things. Like everything it's in the siddur that we never use, he would finally use out of it sometime. You ever heard of something called Hatovas Chaloim? Like you really have to kind of rectify a bad dream, you put it off. So one day he's sitting with three Bachrim and they're telling him, you've seen a good dream, you've seen a good dream. And what is the dream all about? He had a nightmare that he missed Zman Krishna. Because he never missed Zman Krishma in his life. That's his time. So now I understand how Zman Krishma is important. When I studied when I was 17 years old in France, teenagers, they love to eat and sleep. There's nothing wrong with your child if you can sleep from 4 o'clock afternoon. It's growth, it's hormone. He's not bad. He's not going to feel good doing it day after day. God willing, you will figure out a way. Perhaps you won't. Hashem will figure out a way. You will pass it. You will do it. It happened to your husband if you don't know, and to your father, and to everyone. That's a healthy teenager. If a teenager gets up every morning at 6 o'clock and studying gets 100, I'll be worried about it. They have to get into trouble. They have to have some weakness and wildness in their life. Okay. My Bobby had the wisdom, and at that time of our life, to marry off all her kids, she had the seichel, so to speak, to give me that my parent couldn't. They were overwhelmed, 10 children, Thai parnasa, Eretz Yisrael, and I don't blame them. Of course, when I was a teenager, I thought they were working. I did it like everyone else. But looking back, my Bobby had the wisdom of giving me that my mom couldn't. And I'm so grateful to her. So when I was there, she would go up to the marché, to the marketplace twice a week, and she would each time come with a present. A little turtleneck sweater in a maroon color, fitted, make me look a little handsome. Thank you, Bobby. Always put money in my pocket. One Erev Pesach, my grandfather came to me with a great deal, and they were poor, 500 francs, equivalent to $100 at a time. And he was so humble, he didn't say, I'm giving it to you. He owned the money, he goes, Bobby, I'll give back Bobby has asked that I should give it to you. But the story that I like the most is when I'm sleeping in the morning. And the truth is, it was a little unfair because she favored me with the other grandchildren. Maybe she felt she has one shot. We lived in Eretz Yisrael, she lived in France, so she wants like to catch up some reverse discrimination for all the time we missed. And she really invested in me. And while Grandpa would chase all the boys out of the bed and Krishma, oh, with a necklace enough to go to shul, he would come to my bed according to the order. First he did this, another one, and I heard her screaming from the kitchen, Battle! Chepemnish! Don't bother. And he listened. And he escaped my bed. And I'm not going to make katovas chalev with my Krishna. I'm not saying the devil. That beauty gave me the strength for the following act which I do today. You can ask my student. For at least the last 5 years, I have a ritual, the most annoying ritual in the world that I do every morning with my student, and rather in Yiddish. We call it neshama. Because you wake up in the morning, they used to give you a neshama. And the neshama acronym works for the following. Kinderlach, after alle gesagt, Maidani, they'll have to raise the hand. If not, it's to call somebody down. We start with the noon. Negelwasser, Amalagi Gustin, you all get Negelwasser. Then I go the shin. Shvenk in the oil, you rinse your mouth, you wash your face with the Shulchan Aruch and the eyes. And Mem Hey, Maidani bis Haidu, or the Maida bis Harenius, took his up and he said everything. Basically, the very basic of the morning, the quintessential peak that I'm telling the kids, the very first mitzvah every morning a person has, and it's time sensitive, is Man Krishma. My grandfather Beryl got it into my bone, and I'm giving it to my children in class. But because of my grandmother telling him, don't touch him, the void, the fact that she did not interfere and didn't let him interfere with my growth, that's what gave me the passion and the love for Man Krishma. And today, rather, if I miss Man Krishma, it's an anxiety attack for me. How can I do that? I have now my boys, 21, 17, and 6. Ask them, if ever in their life I woke them up for Zman Krishma? And the answer is no. Now you have to understand, the clock is showing 9:06. 9:07 Zman Krishma is over. It's literally a minute effort. All I have to do is come to the bed and say, blah, blah, blah. Here's a negative verse. Make the little and just say this little Krishna and go back to sleep. And I hold myself back in everything. Don't. And I would not tell Zman Krishma. And when they see us rolling out of their room with this recklessness, you could have done it 3 minutes ago. And I just say, good morning, I'm so happy to see you. And every day it's a work, but it's the right work. Sometimes by holding back, you're bringing them the best you could. As the story I said yesterday, there Mendel says, the Kinder seien Gute. Children are good naturally. Hashem gave them souls. Our role as parents, mach nicht kavet. Don't ruin. What I'm trying to say is, we want to interfere, we want to help. That's a little bit of a male. That's why we get upset with our husband. We always want to fix things, and we just don't want them to validate. We're in an age where men taking a lot of women roles, and women taking the men role. And I want to encourage you to stay women. To have the wisdom of a mother of, don't interfere, don't be Mr. Fix-It. Just validate your son. Doesn't mean you have to let him climb over your head. You got to respect yourself, and if you're not happy with what he does, you can tell him, not in my house, you cannot do it because it bothers me. And you should know that wouldn't bother the kids. Children, by definition, don't get upset when you put boundaries. They get upset when you take responsibility for them. You're not going to be accepted to school, you're not going to get it. Don't take responsibility for me. Or you can say, I don't like noise in my house, lower your volume. I don't like this friend at home making noise. Do not smoke in my dining room. You can say it. You should say it. They will respect you for that. No one will drop you because of that. And if they're saying it, they're just teasing you. They will never hold it against you. My mother didn't be spoken of bedroom. No. But when you're worried for them, then they feel, oh, you don't care for me. You don't really trust me. You don't really believe in me. And that's where they get all upset. Now, I don't blame you. It's an instinct we have, and I have it too. All you have to do is just harness it and hold it back, and Hashem will help us with the rest. Why? Because that's how the Baba Chana brought me. And boy, she was a smart woman. And boy, do I love her. When a frum is given, a echte frum is a real religious. I remember her saying her Re'eino, her Shabbos. She had a tichel for Shabbos, glass for Shabbos, slippers for Shabbos, talat for Shabbos. Such a beautiful, poor house. There's nothing at the table, but it was ready, afternoon already. It was clean and it was nice to put together. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes in one of his memoirs called Sefer Zechronos, Lubavitcher Rebbe Zechronos, describing a very poor town, and he explained that when there is dirt and recklessness in a house, it enhances the poverty. And when things are clean and put together, it diminishes and takes away the bite of the poverty. So a lot of times people have to say, we have a small home, too many kids. Small is relative. It's always going to be small. If it's not small for your kids, it's going to be small for your grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, for the party bar mitzvah of your friends. It doesn't end. Is it clean? Do you make the best out of what you had? I remember in school they gave me a broken desk and an old one and a sticky one, and all the drawers are crumbling and barely opening. But every morning I'm washing it, and the kids in class say, I'm washing it, I'm wiping it, and it's clean and it's spotless. And they start loving the classroom because it's clean and it's nice and it's welcoming. And we're putting nice decoration and we're celebrating what we're doing. And that's the woman's role. It's the napkin, it's the flower, it's the way you're delivering it. This is something men cannot and will never do. My other Bubby Rivka, which I mentioned yesterday, she was obsessed with never missing any of our important dates in life. Sentiment. There wasn't her birthday, as long as she was functioning before she got dementia, that I did not receive from her a cake. She wasn't a great baker. She was a great cook. Her oven didn't work at home. So she used to cook with this, we called it Hebrew sir pele, this wonder pot, on top of the fire. That cake traveled all the way to Australia. In 1998, someone came from Israel with a cake. It was already old. Your grandmother sent it to you for your birthday. I promise you, it really happened. It's a further sir pele cake that actually traveled across the globe from Chabad, Eretz Israel, to Melbourne, Australia, to the Smicha program, so I can have my cake for my birthday. Let's zoom a little bit to my Baba and my sister, and I'll talk to you about the Jewish history. You probably all know, but it's inspiring. I always ask students in my class. We're learning Chumash, we're learning Parshas Shavua. When is the darkest period of the entire Chumash? When is it the least light? What is the greatest anxiety? The entire Chamisha Chumash Torah. And I challenge you, if you don't mind, I might get a little interaction. Does anyone wants to inspire me? From the beginning of Bereshis until the Devarim, pick a point that you think which is very dark. Egen Azov, Mitzrayim.
Yosef's
The
brothers.
darkest part. The Meraglim. Kairach. I'm sorry, Meinadad. Yitzhak.
Yosef.
What part of it?
Brothers selling him.
Brother selling him. His mother died. You can come with more, no problem. Rachel Aleinu. I'll tell you my darkest part. And not necessarily it's better than yours. I can only talk to you what inspires me. Could be you're right. Parshas Shmois, the very beginning. Yaakov Avinu passed away last parsha. Yosef, an older brother, passed away last parsha. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't born. Amram is not being mentioned. There's no Rebbe. Pharaoh, the good guy that we had connection with, Mr. Trump or whatever you want to call him, is no longer there, whether he's out of office or he changed his character. We're having a Holocaust raging in us. The Nazis are closing. We have to go with the yellow ribbon. They're sending us to concentration camp, and they're starting the gas chambers. What can you do worse than a mother should just give birth to a child and throw him into the water? It's up. We're not even mentioning slavery. There was slavery and there was hardship. Now you take a child from a woman, life itself, and you throw it into the water, and there's no way Rabbeinu to turn to Avram, Sarah, Rachel, Yosef, all the names. And in that dark time, who inspired the Jewish people? Shifro Pua. Bat Chayana Saylodi. There was Sonderkommando. I don't want to call them capo, but somehow hired by the Nazi regime. And they were told to throw their fellow sons and brothers into the chambers, into the burning ashes machines of Auschwitz. And as my friend Rabbi Jacobson says, there was the first recorded civil disobedience in the family. They disobeyed the order. But Chayeres Ayalodim, and the Torah goes, Pharaoh challenged them. I told you something, why did you do the opposite? And they came with the whole story, like women always know how to do so much better than men. Oh, they're very strange, those women, they like animals, they're giving birth before we're coming in, we can't find the babies. They're excellent in that. But the Torah and the Midrashim explaining us what they really did. But Chayeres Ayalodim. They fed him, they sang to them, they fixed him, they opened the base medrash. They were the beacon of light when was the greatest darkness. This Shifru Pur, Miriam and Amali Yocheved, they are the reason why we're here today. We're taking the further story. The man, the Moshe Rabbeinu that the Torah does mention, Ishmi Beis Levi, has gave up. The Rebbe of that generation says, I'm done, I can't do it. It's a Holocaust all over. Let's get divorced. And he did. And the little chutzpahdik child Miriam turned to father and goes, you're worse than Parita, I hate you, sirs. Because you're also killing the women, not only the men. And you know what? At the time, she has an inspiration and a vision and a nevuah, and she tells, if you're going to regain mommy again, we're going to have a child who's going to save the Jewish people. And that's why we call Miriam and Neviah. The father's being inspired in a moment. His little, the father's a favorite little daughter. She's his little princess. And he go back with mommy together. I wish of so many children today. And lo and behold, they're giving birth to this beautiful Moshe. Says the Medrash, the moment when Moshe was picked up from the house, and they put him in this little basket on the oil, turn Amram, and tap on top of the head of Miriam, the little girl goes, my little prophecy, what have happened here? What does your prophecy come true? Look what it did to this little Messiah of yours. I got back with mommy. Look how much pain you caused us. She was pregnant. She gave birth. We groomed this child. Mommy has fed him for 3 months. She has to depart from him, hoping no one is going to drown him in the Nile. And we're going to let him go there because the forces are knocking all the houses. The Nazis are here. Where is the prophecies? Tell us the Medrash. She broke up with a cry to Hashem. And that way we call her Miriam. It was Merirus, it's a geweint. She had no answer to her father. Her optimism were crushed by this old pessimism of the people who told you better, you little optimist you are, things are bad. That's why we're celebrating her till today. At that moment, what will all of us do? I know about me, I would run out of the house with one drug. But she was Miriam. She followed the baby. She didn't give up to the father. She did not succumb to this man's despair. And she was standing from far to see what's going to be with him. And she followed. And she realized the dynamics. Oh, father's daughter coming. Let's make friends. Oh, the baby's crying. He's not feeding. I'll take care of him. And she saved him. She reunited with the mother for the next 12 years. Phenomenal. She saved the situation. At last, Moshe is not drowned, nor is it drowned by the Goyish milk. Is Moshe Rabbeinu because of Miriam. So when we're coming out of Mitzrayim and we're celebrating and we're opening the seas as a resemblance of Mashiach, we have Shiras Miriam, Oz Yosher Moshe, but Shiras Miriam. It's the woman with the tambourine who played then will play when Mashiach will come. It's that resilience. This is my favorite part of the whole Torah. And it was the darkest part of the whole Torah. And it was Shifra U'Puah, the daughter and mother who saved us. Sorry, there wasn't no meant to be found. I once watched a documentary after the Anschluss of the Nazis in 1938. They went to Austria. And they just marched in and got it in a silver platter and gathered all the Jews, starting all the discrimination and confiscated their businesses and whatnot. It's a beautiful documentary of, I think, a lawyer and his wife lived in Philadelphia at a time who had a big effort. At the time, people did not know it's going to be a Holocaust. People did not imagine in the wildest imagination it's going to be a systematic machine to actually eradicate a nation. They just thought it's persecution, they can upset them, they're going to make them uncomfortable. So they wanted to give a break to the parents that the kids should be spared from all this harshness. Come, we're going to take them to the United States for a summer camp. But they needed visa. And the good, beautiful Americans, it's just of all our good friends in the world, did not grant those visas so quickly. He paid a tremendous amount of money, I think $250,000 at a time, to pay for all those visas, affidavits for each one of the children that he actually is going to sponsor them. And it goes in great detail. They happened hard. They traveled to Berlin. They met Hitler, highest rank in the elevator. They risked their life. And there's one part of the story that really shocks me. It was such a scary time when the parents had to say goodbye on the platform, the train, before they take the kids away. By the way, all those children who escaped from that summer camp are the only ones who survived in their family. The rest of the family never came back. So the Nazis were so sick, they had this Mo'aliyad, where the kind of a salute that they had, a Jew were not allowed to make that salute. And if they didn't do that salute, he would be executed or punished. So the parents were warned, when your kid is going to go on the train, don't you dare wave goodbye to him, because it's similar to the salute, and you might going to be arrested for that. So I'm just showing you that the adding insult to injury, a mother is saying goodbye to a kid and you can't tell him goodbye. And he described this lawyer with his wife, that their fathers were apathetic. They gave up. There was no life in their eyes. They were just walking by. And their mother was full of life and hope. And the moment of despair, the women are there. Because that's what a woman naturally is. So my message today is, your very existence is a beacon of light to everyone in the world. Just be in touch with your feminine part. No need to learn from the men because they're not good in these aspects. When the Rebbe revered, probably the first time in the Orthodox movement where women got this platform of Neshei Bnei Chabad, it was one of the very first organizations that the Rebbe created in Israel, in Canada, in the United States, everywhere. He would once explain that the very notion of making a feminist movement is not coming from a bad place. It's very important to revere the woman and uplift her. Just what a shame that you want to be like the man. That very notion of that meaning that you don't have confidence in your very role. You should be like you. Of course you should have the equal rights. Of course you should have respect and you should own your dignity. And of course you should gather together and use and utilize your qualities for the best of your ability. But believe in yourself. What if you imitate men? How good they are already? There's a story goes among Chassidim for many years that our Rebbe was very eminent about not taking the Rebbe's
Taking what?
his leadership, sorry, the role of a Rebbe. I'm sorry, I'm using Yiddish. Until a few nights before, or maybe the night before, the Rebbe told him the following: if you won't take it, then all my father work will go to waste. A woman who saw a father a Rebbe, a grandfather a Rebbe, great-grandfather a Rebbe for 6 generations, knew the consequences of being a wife of a Rebbe. It's no day and no night. It's pain. It's yeshivas throughout the night. It's running to doctors because it's shortly after falling sick, when you work with the public, it drains your energy. And she was willing to take it upon herself. Just looking back and thinking of the fact that the Rebbe lived without children in an empty house, and 3 nights a week, her husband would not be there until sometime 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and she would never go to sleep before he comes in. It's quite a price to pay. As the Rebbe referred to one of the Polish Rebbes who came to Menachem Ovalam after he lost the Rebbetzin, and he explained how great of a tzidkonis the Rebbetzin was, says the Rebbe, our greatness and our true value only Hashem knows. The strength, the resilience, and not to need to be on stage. That was Rebbe Tzimcha Mishkel. Sharp, smart, intelligent. I remember Rabbi Krinsky, who happened to spend a lot of time with her. I once spoke to him one-on-one, and he told me in length, as elegant and respectful and sensitive that she was, you should never forget that she was a lioness. She was a royalty. Don't ever mistake that you're her friend or buddy and you're going to just like play there with her, just having a light talk. Watch your words. Everything was accounted for. When you said in our presence, you knew your place. She did not intimidate. She was full of love. But she was a woman. That's our story. That's where we come from. That's my Baba Mises. And that's my wife. With all my greatness. If there's no good woman out there to just receive the keys when they come home, where would they be today? I have no patience for that. She's right. She goes, it'll be up to you that we'll starve for a week. Absolutely. They make noise. Just get them away. That's what a father feels like. The very notion that every shower she has to actually bathe them and take them to bed and wake up with them and love them and greet them and never let any cleaning lady to take them to school and bring them to school. Don't feel guilty if you don't do that. That's my wife and I revere her the most, which I did. And she's to walk and bring them and she's so happy to bring them from school. And there's 3 choices of not. You want this and this, the pizza or the ice cream. Why are they so spoiled? But you love them. I'm lucky. I remember as a bocher, I had a very hard time to decide what do I want as a shidduch. And once as a chazan, I was actually then dating, and it was not going anywhere. Not my way. And I met an old lawyer in Michigan. He was then 96 years old. He was from the city of Yekaterinoslavl, where they ever come from, and he survived 2 wars and the revolution in between. Very wise man. It was over 20 years ago. 23 years ago. And he was so smart. Sorry for saying it. After the Rebbe, I never met somebody so smart like this old Jew. He loved Chazon, as he spoke to me about Yossi Rosenblatt. And because I was dating, I asked him, tell me, how would I know if a woman is right for me? And he was so wise, he told me, looks at me like this. Oh, you would know. Boy, you would know. And I said, how long it will take? Because I was dating time and time again. Almost immediately. Immediately. Okay. It was a little prophecy for me. And I said, and what should I look for in a woman? A good mother for your children. See, now I'm far, so my wife cannot blame me. It's in Australia. She can't hear it all the way from the phone. I got exactly what I asked for. A wonderful mother for my children. And I did fell in love with her from the first minute and never gave up. And I'm very lucky to have her. We don't fight like everybody else, of course we do. Otherwise, there will be no marriage. It'll be boring. Down to 20 people don't fight. My oldest son, starting yeshiva katano, basically it's kind of the first religious high school that he attended when he finished primary school. Primary school, it's a very stable time. When they finish 8th grade and then they go to the Sifto, I believe it's the hardest time in our teenage years. And this is the area where most of the system failed. Because it's a very troubled time and you have to be very wise how to engage kids that age. 2 weeks into school, my very obedient child who never gets punished and does all the tests right, and I trust him with closed eyes. He's 4th grade, he gets up in the morning by himself. I don't have to tell him anything. Comes home with a bomb. Father, I'm not going back tomorrow to school. And I knew he doesn't really take a day off. He's not going back to school. My heart fell. I was shivering. I had cold sweat. What is he going to do? Son, whatever you say. I'm just asking you one thing. I'm concerned, and I'm giving you the freedom to do what you want. I'm afraid of internet addiction in your age. If you can guarantee me that you don't fall for that you're going to follow the guidelines I want you to do as you wish. You can go to any school you want, or stay home and go to work. He promised me on the spot. Until he was 20, he did not have a smartphone. On his own. My wife will buy him and he'll return it back. And he will order back a flip phone in order to keep the promise he gave me. Now he's on his own, he can do whatever he wants. He can marry if he wants. God willing. Now that wasn't easy to do. And I don't suggest you all do it. I'm just explaining you my trouble. I had to be there for him. You might going to say, was that the right decision? I don't know. All I know is one thing. I had to be there for him in a moment of need, and I'm not going to betray him when he really needed me. I trust you. I'm there for you. This is my concern. Let's work on it. 3 years later, very long years, he came back to yeshiva. He's shining. He's giving classes to others. He uplifts others. This was my little grandmother Chana saying, Bel, Chebemnish. How beautiful. What a wise woman. My child, the next one, 16. Couldn't tell. What are they saying in school? I can't understand a word they say over there. This is so boring. They talk. I begged school with great respect. You have to work with the system. Don't ever work against it. It doesn't work. If you care for your child, don't fight his teacher. It's not worth it for you. From experience. Yes, flatter them and tell them how great they are, even when they're not at all. Because you care for your child. You don't want to save the world. You don't want to be honest. You want to be smart. It's your child. Think of a hostage situation. What are you going to explain to him? You're a terrorist? No. You work out with it. So with the great respect that I always gave to the system, I worked out with him that he's coming later. They're starting 7, he's starting 9. Comes a time. They finish 9 o'clock at night. He finished 2. I respect him. He plays basketball. He learns art. He's a phenomenal artist. In school, he's very respectful. He's not chutzpahdik. And he tells me now, Tom, next year, I'm not sure I want to go back to yeshiva. Can we think of something else? Honestly, I don't know the answer. God willing, as soon as I come back from Australia, now we're having vacation. I promised to learn with him every day, to play with him basketball. Hopefully I'll have the energy. And Hashem will give me the way what to do with him. I don't know. I can't guarantee his future. I can only try. And all I'm going to try is not to hurt him, not to betray him. Not to throw on him my insecurity. It's not his fault. I don't own him. I've had that until today in the street when people stopping me. These are your children? You know, the old Russian parents will go, mine. Did I own him? I worked so hard to bring him to the world. It's a gift by Hashem Almighty. I'm so humbled to have this kid in my hand. I remember the first kid crying when we were buried him in the hospital. I was crying from happiness. Why am I so lucky to have it? This is life in your hand. This is ultimate Mashiach. It's even greater than Tchias HaMesim. It's being brought in the Gemara. For a child to be born is a greater miracle than to the resurrection of the dead. I should sit right now and torture them and walk around and say, here's my son, and you don't reflect nice in me, and it's embarrassing to my friend the way you behave. Who am I? I got a present of this kid. You cherish him, respect him, and apologize to him. Don't be weak. Let him lead. Don't let him talk down to you. But respect him. There's a very big difference between respect and submission, between strength and weakness. What we're not going to do today, and you're going to find out. That's not what I came to tell you. I just want to inspire you that it's doable. I didn't make mistakes, I made many. My young child doesn't talk to me. He's 6 years old. I come home, I want to hug him. He runs away, he hugs the brother. That's the way he talks to the father. If he wants to talk to me, he goes to my wife, goes, tell Tati that I was drawing today and playing. So if I'll be a concerned parent, I'll take him to the doctors. He's on the spectrum. Oh, that's probably some autism. Stop it. That's his shtick and he's going to grow out of it, then I'm fine with him. So he won't talk to me. Who am I over here? It's all about me. I need him to talk to me. He won't. I'll live with that. Do I deserve he should talk to me? What, I put so much effort into him? Maybe it's a good lesson to me to back off, to be involved in his life. My lessons from the Shev Nes Chabad is the humility, the beauty, the natural life that women have. I lecture around in my neighborhood. My favorite place is Beis Rivka, high school girls. No offense to the other schools. And why? There's an energy there that I can't find anywhere else. And we're in particularly 12th grade. And I don't mind if you're going to pass the word. Mrs. Glukowski and Mrs. Gurari are my favorite two ladies in the whole country. Are they the greatest teacher? I said, they listen to the classroom. They're sincere. They give their heart and soul. They care for the girls. They have families. They're not young. It's over hours. It's after hours. They have grandchildren coming home. And it's a Friday night, winter Shabbos. They barely came from school. They had no time to breathe, and they're opening the house for all the girls to make them an event for Test Kislev, Yud Kislev, and then ask me, Raskin, can you come? That's just our accent, if you know what I'm talking about. Raskin, I love when you talk about Abbas Yisrael. How can I refuse to them? And I did it countless times with them. They have so much passion. They are the soul of the school. 20 years, they did not get their salaries on time, and sometimes they probably owe them from who knows how many years. Very disrespected by our system. That's what we do to ourselves. That's what kids do to mothers all the time. A mommy you're allowed to abuse because it's mommy. You can tell, ew, I hate it. Take back that food. We'll try to do it with your mother-in-law. But with mommy, we can do it. And sometimes those who are mothering to us in our community, we do the same to them. Our teachers, our rabbonim, and our rebbe sometimes. Rebbe, give. Not enough, or maybe Rebbe, give. Who's going to give him, the poor guy? Who's going to ask him, Rebbe, what can I do for you? Who's going to come to the doctor after a whole hard day of work? Doctor, do you want a hot soup? You're most probably so tired. I remember in PTA, when I'm exhausted in the middle of the night and I have 20 parents running one after another, and one beautiful father runs to me with a cup of water. Oh, my Raskin, you want a drink? I'm thinking, what a soul, what a beautiful man. I have a lot more to talk, and I can talk about all our Rebbitzins from the beginning till the top, but I decided to stay with heart. I believe that we have the power over here. Women in my life gave me the greatest thing I had. On a personal note, I was involved in Crown Heights with many great revolutions, positive revolutions. One of them was 2002, Tovshin Samach Beis. Centennial Shnas Hakel, 100 years of Umarat Rebbe. I was shortly after September the 11th. I was so inspired and I decided I want to do something. And the idea was to gather the whole community for the first time ever since Kimutam was 7 years prior to that. At that time, we divided for two groups. Some davening upstairs, some downstairs. Some for bringing the Srifko and some is in 70. The Gan Menachem and Gan Das. The camp upstairs, the Rebbe's camp, and the Rebbe. All those language of nonsense that we so comfortably adapt to ourselves. This is the shul where I'm davening, you're here, I don't put stuck in. And we decided to rise above those bridges and bring the community together, and it was successful. And ever since it happened at least once a year by the great Rabbi Mendel Mintz, who just got married with a miracle. We closed this Parkway for the first time in history, not on Lag BaOmer. At an evening. And we got 10,000 men, women, and children sitting with the Rebbe and singing without an MC, without a psukim even, without one rabbi speaking or sitting, just us and a video of the Rebbe. That was the only common denominator that we finally agreed. And boys, you know how hard was it to do. I'm not taking credit for that. The one who did his name is Michal Goldman, and he's a shliach Derein Kawai, and he's the father of the publication which you know about Derein Chayei. But I helped him, and our ways merged together. But I will tell you, when it seems like that we're gonna fail, it's not gonna work. There were so many forces. You don't understand. People come to you a week before. We're gonna cut the wires. We're gonna call the police on you. There is some people who have like this terrorist element into them. Just at last, let's fight. Don't stop our flow. We like to fight over here. This is a boxing ring. And you coming in, you want to make a peaceful. This is not UN. We want to fight. And Hashem helped us. At one point when I gave up completely, I wrote to the Rebbe, what should I do? And the answer was, in English Kodesh, Neshei Ubnois Chabad complaining to me, how come they don't get enough help from Anash? How come we don't help enough the women? Boy, today I understand it. So I went and I met with Neshei Chabad, happened to be then aunt of my wife. And guess what? Because of my conversation with her, and then she invited me to speak for the Dolphinism convention that they had. And eventually, I told him, if I'm going to call a man to come, he's going to tell me I have to ask my wife. And his wife said, "Give the babies." What if I'm going to tell you to come, then your husband for sure will come and all of your children. And that's what really happened. And the woman actually made that even. Many years later, a very complex problem in my school happened. A new board, a fight, a court case, whatnot. And we tried to navigate all those very rough waters. What are we going to do? And I'm asking again. Go ask advice by the revered ladies of Neshei Chabad. So I'm marching to a great end in Cherna, Light's house, to Rebbe's in Cherna. I have a message from the Rebbe to you. Advise me in this situation. What should I do? I don't think I ever said it publicly, that story. Tell me, Yossi, whatever you talk over here, it doesn't really matter. Until the Rabbanim of Crown Heights are not going to get together, nothing is going to work over here. Do you hear me? Okay. And then I ask her, what's about this, Rav? About a particular guy that I thought is good. No good. He's full of ego. He's not good. And whatever she tells me right now, it's an answer from the Rebbe, by the way. And I follow her advice. And yesterday I mentioned that story where I did the following steps. We got an election, we did a board, we went to the Rabbanim. And spiritually, we helped, and eventually the Rabbanim got together and did save Crown Heights before the Corona. But nobody knew that there was a woman behind that story, because the Rebbe told me in the two greatest events I ever was involved with, bringing Achdus in Crown Heights and bringing Achdus the second time to the Rabbanim of Crown Heights, was through Neshei Ubnois Chabad. Give yourself a hand, please. If America works in Australia, it doesn't. Sorry.
Raskin, it's very interesting that you mentioned earlier that the ages between 13 and 17 were formative ages that the child needs its family. It's very interesting that you said that, because actually my husband said that often the country is better, whether they're children or whether they're children, that you can tell which ones did not go off to college in just 20 years. It's very interesting that you brought that up.
You know, because Rebbetzin just mentioned that, sorry, you're Rebbetzin going?
Yeah.
I'm going to mention another anecdote that I didn't think I'm going to say. But during my hard time with my oldest son, and I was going from one Rosh Yeshiva to another to ask them for help, one of them told me probably the smartest advice that I needed to hear at a time. He told me, listen, it's about a year and a half maximum of that little trouble that they had. All you have to know is how to write it correctly. And if you won't fight him in this year and a half, you're going to have him for life. It was actually Rabbi Minsky from Torah to Torah. I should really be indebted and I should thankful. And that advice gave me the confidence. Someone saw it, it was my first trial, I didn't know what to do, and we can pass it. So just to restrand what Rabbi Tzim Kohen just said, it's about a year and a half hard time with boys, and I believe with girls too. And I have to be there with them. I know you might going to say, okay, they already grew, they're already in trouble. I don't think it ever changed. We had recently in the family a very tough case. I don't want to reveal too many details. But at one point, there was a certain knowledge that we relatives knew, and we did not want to tell the parents because we weren't sure they're going to handle it right. So we went to a professional in this field, and we asked him what to do. And he explained that that particular youngster that were in trouble needs right now just unconditional acceptance. And if the parents could give it to him, then good. If not, better don't talk to them. and at a time they couldn't, and we haven't spoken to them in a year and a half, and it was a very smart advice. Because once they were ready and someone spoke to them about it, that's exactly the direction that they got. And now they're more ready to do it. Whichever is good for prevention, it's also good for healing. It's like they said about this, what's the called medicine they gave for corona? With the chloroquine? Something. Yes, I remember the doctor told me it's good before and it's good after, so to speak. Whatever helps you to prevent corona will help you also to heal from corona. I believe the same thing with education. You never fail. We don't know what's failing, what's not. The ability to accept and to love unconditionally, it's good before and it's good after. And one little advice, just have a circle of good friends. And friends, the Mishnah tell us, Asay l'cho rav, uknei l'cho chaver. A rabbi is someone that you kind of force yourself to get. A friend is someone that you buy, you acquire, perhaps even bribe. Now you might gonna say, it's not so honest and it's not so true. Well, this is the laws of this world that Torah tells us. The only true way to have a friend is by buying them off. Do you think a husband doesn't buy a woman? Let him try. Not to talk to you nice, and not to buy you flowers, and not to recognize your anniversary and birthday, and tell me how good this ultimate love will live forever. If he knows what's good for him, he should buy you every day and every hour. And that's ultimate friendship, and that's how it works also with friends. I must tell you today that what keeps me till today is my good friends. I have a series of good friends, and they're helping me. Certain things you don't want to talk to parents or to siblings. It's intimidating. And those friends I invest in. In the middle of the night, I can call them and they will call me. And often they're so annoying. I'm busy, I'm moving, I'm working, I'm packing, and they tell me all the politics that he had with his son, with his wife, and mother-in-law, but it's an investment. So I want to conclude. You have what you need to have. You have the power. Hashem B'nai Chabad, the reason why we're here. Let us not forget there is a hierarchy. The Hashem B'nai Chabad are B'nai Chabad. Chabad is the direction of the Torah. Our Rabbi Seif Nisim are rebels. And primarily, they're a burning of town. I believe next time I come to Melbourne, we have a full functioning Bezdek over here. And I believe you don't have to run anywhere. You have the people over here, the great people. You can work with your rabbis. You can make a deal with them. Men don't understand it, like to fight. Women can fix it. They have it in them. You can find the existing rabbi. Who can you get along with? And make a body of 3 or 5. If you don't know how to do it, get a mediator, get a toyen, God forbid the Torah, fix it up, make a date, settle it up, keep it away from the man's hand, and just get a bed. And let them work together. And then people will listen to them, and they'll give the guidelines. And things will work beautifully. It happened in Crown Heights. I did not think we needed a best thing. I thought we needed a committee to all the Torah. And Rebbetzin, Meshev Chabad, which I was sent to by the Rebbe, was, no, you need Rabbanim. So if it worked for Crown Heights, although not everything that works in America works in Australia, but in any case, maybe. I want to wish you Hatzlacha, good marriages, Shidduchim for those who need. Bon, Chayim, Ezoiner, Revicha. And I want to ask a personal favor. A relative of mine, a beautiful young lady, by the name Chaya, Tzir Bas Ella. I want her to be healthy. I want her to go back to her previous strength. I want her to be able to have children. They not have to go through treatments anymore. And her parents should be happy, and her family should be happy. And she should dance in her kids' weddings, and the husbands, and all the children. God willing. Yes, please.
Can I just ask you a question? You
Yes.
mentioned before about your son, was he 14 weeks and I'm not going back to school tomorrow. You said fine. I mean, would it be too harsh? You used to say, I hear you, my son. You tell me what happened or why?
I'll tell you what, because our time is. She's asking, how is that I told my son right away not to go? I'm going to finish with that. You have to understand, I'm giving anecdote just to show the spirit of thing. I am not really going through the stories. The stories that we have in conversation on a daily basis. Everything is open, and we have respect. And I will work with him and the school. I'm just giving you the punchline when he came to a point and he just told me that's my decision. It's like, you're going to talk about how your husband proposed to you. He just met me in the street and got married to you. I just skipped the whole story before. There's a long story behind. God willing, next time. But I would love to answer it. Thank you very much.